A conflict which began in December 2013 has already claimed thousands of lives and left millions huddled in IDPs facing starvation, disease and death. Now, the regional mediator, IGAD, says the two warring factions either sign a peace pact tomorrow or face sanctions.
There is a problem within the region. The region has not spoken with one voice. And this is, again, you have to put it in the context that as soon as the conflict opened up in South Sudan, the region was divided, clearly. Uganda had its position, Sudan had its position, Kenya had its position, and then they just like within these countries themselves, in terms of the interests, the national interests which are involved. And so, since the region has not been speaking with one voice, I'm not so sure that it's going to speak with one voice this time round.
Former spy chief and regional security expert David Paul says pressure must be imposed on regional leaders to ensure that peace prevails in South Sudan.
The two people who can deliver this peace agreement tomorrow is President Museveni and President Bashir. Those are the only two.
Why is that?
Because Salva Kiir is a beneficiary, a protégé of President Museveni, and therefore is the front office through which President Museveni and his government are executing this war on South Sudan. Riek Machar, on the other hand, is also a protégé of Bashir.
Yet there are a number of sticky issues which could likely keep these adversaries apart. For instance, the Kiir-led government has rejected plans to establish a neutral third force controlling an otherwise demilitarized capital, Juba. It also has rejected the proposal to give the rebels de facto control of the three states most affected by the conflict, which also contain the lucrative oil fields. The rebels want a dominant share in the national government and the federal system, which is yet another contentious issue. Just recently, Dr. Riek Machar's SPLA in opposition split as one of its key commanders, Major General Peter Gadet, said both Kiir and his former boss should be excluded from the transitional government. Kiir, on the other hand, faces pressure from SPLA's Chief of Staff, Paul Malong, and Dinka leaders not to sign the deal.
So Uganda needs to prevail on Malong and the Dinka elders, okay, so that Kiir has got sufficient courage to sign the peace agreement.
Professor Philip Kasaija, an international law don and regional security expert, says this, coupled with suspicion among regional leaders, could present a challenge ahead of tomorrow's peace deal.
We see Uganda supporting the government in the government in Juba. We see Khartoum allegedly supporting the SPLM-IO. We see the jostling between Ethiopia and Kenya in terms of who should have more influence within the talks.
Previous attempts by IGAD and other mediators to midwife a peace deal have failed.
If at all Obama, the United States can say all this is the sanction, but it has to be the region. And I think this has been the position all along. Especially some countries have seen positions like the Russian Federation, who have argued that if the sanctions have to be enforced, then it has to be, the region has to take the lead.
It should be that those who fail to implement those sanctions should also come under sanctions, in my view.
Last Saturday, East African leaders gathered in the Ethiopian capital in a last-ditch effort to convince South Sudan's warring sides to sign a peace deal, ramping up pressure before a Monday deadline to end a 20-month civil war. Last month, IGAD, the East African bloc mediating the talks, handed both sides what it called a compromise deal on power sharing and other contentious issues, proposing a 3-year interim period as a solution to the conflict, while setting August 17th as a deadline to end the drawn-out talks. Uganda's army since 2014 has its boots on South Sudan grounds, a move which Machar's side has often interpreted as an occupational force to shore up the fragile Kiir regime. Sheila Nduhukire, NTV.